Okay, so this is similar to what I have made in the last class. So we have a source which is supplying 5 volt. One point I have marked as VDD, and that VDD I am connecting to the supply voltage, and then I have an input source. Last time we did a DC analysis. Now these parameters which I have given here, I have explained it all in the last class. VT naught is basically the PMOS parameters. This first part, this one, mode P is basically the model file for PMOS device, and mode N is basically the model file for, or model parameters for NMOS device. Now VT naught is basically the PMOS threshold voltage. Kp is basically the transconductance, process transconductance parameter, 25 microns. We don't specify the entire unit, we only just give you whether it is micro or nano, etc. Okay, lambda 0.1, gamma, then phi. I hope you know all these parameters by now. We have just used some of these parameters to calculate capacitance, etc. So if we want, we can also give L naught. L naught is given by, I think, XD parameter. So all these parameters are here. Yeah, lateral diffusion. So this is basically L overlap. So if we want, we can give that also. Okay, so now what we are going to do today is basically to give a pulse waveform at the input. So this is like a square wave. Initial value 0, final or high value is basically 5 volt. Let's give. We can give 3.3 also. Delay means if the waveform is shifted or not. No, we don't want any delay. Rise time. Okay, let's put some rise time. Let's say 0.5 nanosecond, and fall time also I'll put 0.5 nanosecond, and T on, let me give it as let me give it as, let's say okay, so that means how long it is going to stay at the high state. That's what we mean by T on. So T on, let's say we can give 5 nanosecond. If required, we will modify if later. And period, let's give 10 nanosecond. How many cycles you want to give? You can specify that also. Say 4 cycles or 5 cycles. You want to give. So that's our source. Now let's run it. So design parameters all given. Okay, length is 1 micro, width is 10 micro, and we calculated same thing what we did in the last class, same design parameters. Similarly for NMOS also. Now we will do the transient analysis. So the stop time where we want, so the pulse is actually having a period of 10 nanosecond. So if you want say 4 cycle, then we have to run it for 40 nanosecond, and let's say this has 0.1 nanosecond. That is a step. That will basically, if you keep it small step size, the graphs will look better. So this is our input. So rise time and fall time I gave us how much? 0.5 nanosecond. So in 0.5 nanosecond it goes from 0 to 5 volt, and similarly fall time also 0.5 nanosecond, and then it stays at half of the time and then comes back. Okay, so let's look at the output. So this is the output. Inverter output should be like this, right? If you give high, you should get low. If you give low, you should get high. Now as we have estimated in the earlier problem, a typical value of rise time and fall time is a fraction of nanosecond, and we are plotting the graph like in multiples of nanosecond, so 0 to 40 nanosecond. So, or if even if you take one cycle, it is 10 nanosecond. So the rise time and fall time you can't really appreciate. It looks like all of a sudden it is going down. So what we can do is that we can reduce the pulse period. So from 10 we can make it say 2 nanosecond, and then on time we will keep 1 nanosecond, and the rise time and fall time will keep 0.05. This is the input pulse, and similarly, so if the period is 2 nanosecond, 4 period will have 8 nanosecond. Let's give the step size as 0.01. So this is just to magnify into the charging and discharging process. Okay, so now the inputs are the rise time and fall time is much less. So you can see when it is falling in number of points which it is taking. I have given 0.01 step, so you can see dashes there. So if you want to be more smooth, then you can still reduce the step size. Then yeah, so now we will see the output. Okay, so now it's slightly better, but still I think we still miss it is still difficult to measure, say, rise time and fall time at the output. So let us further reduce. So let's make it period as 1 nanosecond, and on time as 5 nanosecond, and the transient analysis we will do till 4 nanosecond. Input okay, so now it is better. Maybe we should not plot till 4 nanosecond, let's plot only till 2 nanosecond. Only 2 cycles. Okay, so now you can see the waveform quite well, and you can find out rise time and fall time, etc. So the definition I gave you 2 definitions for rise time and fall time at the output. One is to take from 10% to 90% of the output waveform. So 10% of the final value we are talking about, that is VDD, which is 5. So 10% of that means so let's bring down the cursor. first let us look at the rise time. So 10% of 5 is 0.5. So let's look at the vertical axis and make sure that we have 500 millivolt or 0.5 volt. Okay, let's make it bigger. So now it is 4:30, 5:27. Okay, so I can't really get. Can I? I can't enter here. Okay, so another thing. Let's plot then one cycle. Nanosecond. Okay. So if I bring the cursor, and try to locate a 500 milli, okay, 479, 527. I'm not able to get even. Okay, let's take roughly 479 as 1 point. So this is 1 point. Then there is a 10% point. 10% of 5 volt is 0.5 volt. And then let me bring one more cursor. Okay, so that is, let's bring both cursor. So this one I will put for the second one I will put for 90%. 90% means 4.5 volt. This is roughly 4.5 volt. Okay, so vertical axis, if you look, one is at 0.5 volt and the other is at 4.5 volt. Now you look at the horizontal axis. So you can see that so this is like the 2 points I have taken in the class, x and y, or u and v, or something like that I took. So TU, TV minus TU, right? So that was basically our rise time, T rise. So what is the higher time? That is 727 picosecond minus 614. So you have the difference here. Difference between cursor 1 and cursor 2 is already given here. So this is basically that is 113 picosecond. Okay, it's not very exactly measured, but roughly to the accuracy we can get from this graph. So we are getting 113 picosecond. Now in our problem, for the parameters that we have taken, we got rise time as 271 picosecond. Okay, so this is the kind of value that we were looking for. Okay, 100 picosecond, of the order of 100 200 picosecond, that is the rise time. Now same thing you can do for the fall time. Again you keep it at 4.5. Okay, so that's 4.5 roughly, and then you keep it at 0.5. Okay, and you see the fall time is relatively less, it is 54. So you note down this fall time 54 picosecond. Okay, so fall time is less, that means what? That means it is a fast process for discharging, but for charging it is taking longer time. Okay, so this is basically the result that we get. Now let me introduce one more thing, the output capacitor. I am putting a capacitor. Okay, I put a capacitor. Let me give some value. So the value of CL. So CL is basically the load to the next section. So if we are actually connecting this output to the input of another inverter, then we can take CG of rough value. Gate capacitance we earlier obtained for an inverter, NMOS and PMOS, we found 10.8 and 21. So it's like something like 30 femtofarad. So that's the gate capacitance of NMOS plus PMOS. So let's put in 30 femto. So we put a 30 femtofarad. So now if I run it, what should we expect? We should expect a slower rise time and slower fall time. Yeah. So again you repeat the measurement. So if you look at the rise time, you will go to 0.5. Okay, roughly, and then 4.5. So you can see that now it is the difference between x-axis is 184 pico. Earlier it was 130, now it has gone to 184. So now let's similarly find out So roughly this is 91. Earlier it was 54. This is 91. So both have increased. That is expected. The reason is that the C out is basically sum of parasitic capacitance at the output and the load capacitance. So they are increased. Another thing I told you that we will see a coupling effect from input to output. So that also can be seen here. Since we have measured, let me just put it back. Input and then output. So you can see another thing. There is a peaking, that is before it discharges, it's the voltage output goes up above 5 volt and then comes back. Similarly, while before charging from 0, it goes to the negative value and then it charges. Okay. So that is because of the coupling between input and output. So there is a gate capacitance through which the input signal, when it changes quickly, some of the signal will flow into the output. Okay, this is a sudden transition from low state to high state at the input. So that will, since there is a capacitance between input and output, which is basically the gate capacitance, so this will be reflected at the output. So that is why this. But once the transistor NMOS is turned on, then and the discharging begins, so this because the change happens only for a short time. So once the change is done, the d by dt of the input is 0. It is staying at high state. So then there is no way capacitance can pass DC. So there will be no effect of the input coming to the output. But whenever there is a rate of change of input, at that time this peak will become bigger if you have bigger and narrow if the rise time and fall time of the input is reduced further. So let's see. Now we have put 0.05 nanosecond as rise time and fall time, and both rise time and fall time, the peaking in both transitions are almost same amplitude. So now let's increase this the rate at which it goes up and keep the other at the same place. So rise time I want to reduce. So let's say, let me make it 0.01. So that means it's more faster. Now this also I have to change to say 0.07. Okay, so it's, you can see that it's not symmetric now. The input waveform is suddenly going up but slowly coming. So falling is slower process. So if we now look at the output, because the rate of change of input is higher, I am expecting a higher peaking before discharging, but for a narrow, shorter time, because this is existing only for a shorter time. So that's what you see. Okay, so peaking amplitude goes up, but the duration for which it rises reduces, because everything is over in a shorter time. So this is some of the charging and discharging effect. Okay, so now you can plot a graph. What will happen? What you do is take various load capacitance, say from 0, then 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. up to, or with a difference of 20, you change the load capacitance, and for each cases, say take from 0 to 100 with a gap of 20 femtofarad. and find out the rise time and fall time for each of these cases, and you will get a graph. You can plot a graph where for different load, x-axis you take the load resistance, load capacitance, and y-axis you plot the rise and fall time, two curves. So that curve will come like this. So it will be a straight line. What I am asking you to do is take a CL on the x-axis and time on the y-axis. Time means one curve for rise time and one curve for fall time. So in our case, which was larger, discharging was faster. So that means fall time was smaller. Yeah. So if you do this study, you will get a graph like this. So this is basically T fall. Similarly, you can do T rise. Okay. So this you can study. So you should get a straight line, and when load capacitance is 0, so that we will call as TF0, this value, and this value we will call as TRC. So this is the dependence on rise time, dependence of rise time and fall time on the load capacitance. So this you should study. Okay. As a second part of the experiment, I want you to do one more thing. That is, you can take the same figure. So this, let me say, this one is die. So let me open a new file. And if you do F6, you can copy everything here into the new. Again F6. If you do, what I want to do is, okay, let me first of all remove these capacitors. Okay, I want this part only. Now let me copy this. I'm going to make 2 more copies of this. Alright, so 3. just magnify this so that you can see properly. I made two more copies of inverter. Let me remove this. I don't need this. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a wire and connect the output of the first to the second, output of the second to the first, and the output of the last I'm going to connect to the input of the first. We're just going to make a circuit. So let me denote with a label this output. Okay. So this is what I have done. I took 3 inverter and then I connected. If you can connect 3 inverter like this is what is called as ring oscillator. Ring oscillator. Okay, this is called ring oscillator. Now ring oscillator is basically a way of constructing an oscillator with the inverter, because inverter input is 1, output should be 0. Suppose right now the input is 1, so the output of the first inverter should be 0, which is the input to the second, so its output should be 1, and that is input to the third inverter, its output should be become 0. So now it has to become 0. Earlier it was 1, so it has to become 0. So this way, if you have odd number of inverter, it will keep on changing. It will keep on changing. So this way it will go from high to low, high to low. So let's see what happens with the output. So let us do the transient analysis, but let's do it for 1 micro. Let's see what happens. Stop time, I am putting 1 micro. So this one I have to close. So let me just take this point. Okay. So this is the output. I have made it to run for 1 microsecond. For some time there was nothing happening, but at around 0.2 microsecond output started coming, but it's not very clear because probably the frequency is very high, so we need to plot it by stretching the time axis. Okay, if you magnify it, you can see. So there is going to be oscillation building up, and then we are getting output. So the period is something like how much? One cycle is like 92, so of the order of nanosecond. So what I'll do is I'll change the transient analysis command. Instead of putting it so let's say from 2 micro So let me put it as 2.01 micro and 2 micro. That is the output oscillation. I have plotted it from 2 micro to 2.01 micro. Okay, so that I can see the steady state value. So I plotted the output only at a later time, but I started from 2 micro and then ended at 2.01. 2.01 means it's like 10 nanosecond duration. 10 nanosecond duration only I am plotting. So in 10 nanosecond duration, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Roughly 10 cycles I am seeing. So let's measure the period. Maybe we can start from the peaks, from one peak to another peak. Okay, so the difference is around 900 picosecond or 0.9 nanosecond. The period capital T is 0.9 nanosecond. Now, so what is the frequency? 0.9 nanosecond means 1 divided by 0.9, which is 1.1 gigahertz. That is the output frequency for the given parameters. Okay, so if you vary the parameters, it basically depends on the propagation delay of each inverter. Okay, there are 3 inverters, so the period is going to be determined by the propagation delay of 3 inverters. So that you can find out, from this you can find out what is the propagation delay. So by measuring the period of the ring oscillator and noting down that there are 3 stages of inverter, you can measure the propagation delay. Okay. So if you look at the period of ring oscillator, the expression will depend upon both the number of stages as well as the propagation delay. So the relationship is something like this. So time period is equal to or time period is what was the correct? Let me just check. time period is basically two t into n, where t is the delay of single inverter, 2t into n. So t is the delay of the single inverter. So there is a high to transition and low to high transition. So you have to multiply that t with 2, so that both high to low and low to high transition delays are taken into account, and then the number of stages you have to multiply. So that will give you the period of, so the period you can find out. So here we got it as 900 picosecond. So if you divide it by 2n, that will give you the propagation delay. Okay, so let's do that. 900 divided by 2n means 6. So we will get the propagation delay Tp as 150. Okay, so we get the propagation delay as 150 picoseconds. Okay. Now earlier we found out rise time and fall time by taking 90%. But if you want to match it with this relationship, what you need to do is you have to go for 50% delays. So which is basically 0.693 R on into C out, and similarly 0.693 R P C out. So you take these two delays and then add them together and divide by 2. So that is the definition of propagation delay. Okay. So propagation delay. So I think I did not teach that earlier. Propagation delay is basically the Tp is basically Tp LH plus Tp HL, both are for output, divided by 2, and Tp LH we got it as, that is low to high transition, that is charging time. So 0.693 into R P C out. So here for ring oscillator we are not connecting any load capacitor there, only the parasitic capacitor. So it will be CFET only. So we can take that also out. So RP plus Rn into C out. Then the average. So add the two propagation delay, low to high and high to low, where the propagation delays are calculated with respect to 50%. That is why I am taking 0.693. So this is the input. Okay, like this. Okay, this is our input V in. So similarly we can find out the output. So what will happen when the input goes too high? So we have to note the 50% point at the input waveform, and then what is going to happen is, as you have seen, there is going to be a rise, and then there is going to be, and then here okay. So this is how. So again you do not so this is VDD, this is also VDD, 50% point is here. So difference between these two, 50 input 50%, and output 50%. So this is our TPHL. Similarly you can do this also. Okay, this will be much smaller compared to rise time and fall time, where we take from 10% to 90%. So this is TPLH. Okay, so you substitute, measure these two and substitute and calculate your propagation delay using this formula, and this multiplied by 2. Okay, why we are multiplying? Because we are taking average of the two as our propagation delay. So when you multiply it by 2, you will get basically TPLH plus TPHL. So this so in other words, for ring oscillator, capital T of ring oscillator is basically 3 stage, if it is n stage, n into TPHL plus TPLH. Okay, so first you need to find out TPLH and TPHL, add them to, multiply with 3. So that is, so you have to verify this. So from the dynamic characteristics you can find out TPHL and TPLH as I have shown here. It's slightly different from the rise time and fall time calculation. Earlier we took 10% and 90%. Now you have to take the 50% of input and 50% of the output. So you have to plot both input and output and take the cursor and then verify whether you are getting the expected frequency for this or not. So that's basically the experiment. Any doubts? Okay, this is different. Dynamic characteristics. Any doubts?
Sir, we have to calculate the propagation delay of dynamic characteristic.
Yeah, you have to calculate the rise time, fall time, and the propagation delay. TPHL and TPLH you have to take, and you have to add them together. So here what you do is you take this cursor, and cursor you take here. Oh, let me do it again. So this is a cursor you can use to locate the 50% of the input. You look for 2.5 roughly, okay, and then you take a cursor for the output also. Take one cursor for output also. Okay, I think we can take, and then you find out the 50% for the output. So earlier point you note down, and this point you note down, and take the difference. So difference between the 50% of output minus that of the input. So that is your TP-LH. Similarly, you can do it for the other edge also. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So, and then because we have used the same inverter for creating the ring oscillator, so this propagation delay will decide your ring oscillator period or frequency. You should not use 3 different stages. Okay, every parameter for each inverter should be the same.